Good morning, Chair Russell. This is Rhonda. We have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you, Rhonda. And are we at officially 10 o'clock?
We are.
Then let's call this meeting the Mountain Line Transit Advisory Committee meeting to order. Roll call, if you will, please, Rhonda.
Thank you. Trevino County, Kim Musselman.
Present.
Thank you. Trevino County Citizen Representative, Jillian Thomas.
Present.
Thank you. We also have our Coconino County Citizen Representative alternate on the line, Carol Covington.
Good morning.
Good morning. City of Flagstaff, Greg Clifton. Are you with us? Some people have entered. See if we can find it. City of Flagstaff Citizen Representative Michelle James.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. Metro Plan, Dave Wessel.
Good morning.
We also have our Metro Plan alternate Jeff Meilbeck with us.
Good morning.
Morning. NAU, Aaron Stone.
Hi, good morning.
Thanks, Aaron. You're our person on the phone. And I believe our NAU student representatives from ASNAU are still on break, and that's Kinsey Kavanaugh and Brendan Tratchell. Hopefully they'll be with us in September. CCC, Tony Williams.
Present.
Thank you. And our Economic Development Citizen Representative, Gail Jackson, is excused. We are in the beer room and some employees are also on Zoom. And I will turn it back. Oh, we do have our attorney, Chris Beecher, with us as well. Chris,
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. And I will turn it back to Chair Russell. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda, and thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. Looks like we have a good crowd. Let's move on to the next item, our safety minute with our safety manager, Sam Short. Sam?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Transit Advisory Committee. The August Safety Minute is regarding flood danger mitigation. So each year, more deaths occur because of flooding than any other hazard related to thunderstorms. The most common flood death occurs when a vehicle is driven into hazardous floodwater. Fortunately, you can take steps to protect yourself and your family during a flood event. A few things you can do to help stay safe during a flood event are: listen to your local radio or television station for updates. Sign up for local emergency alert systems. Most alert systems offer a variety of ways to receive warnings like text, email, and telephone call. Never ignore an evacuation order. Have an evacuation plan in place along with an emergency kit to take with you. Leave areas subject to flooding, such as low spots, canyons, washes, etc. Do not drive or walk across creeks or flooded roads. If you are evacuated, return to your home only after local authorities have said it is safe to do so. Please follow these steps to ensure you and your family stay safe during a flood event. Thank you and welcome to the August Transit Advisory Committee meeting.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate that. Out here in Doney Park, I especially appreciate that. So let's move on to our call to the public. Rhonda, do we have any requests for comment?
Do not, and there's no one here physically in the room for the call to the public either.
Okay, well, that'll conclude our call to the public. Thank you. And now let's move on to the approval of the TAC minutes from way back in April. April 7th, 2022. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Hi, this is Erin. I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Aaron. That's Aaron Stom with NAU. Do we have a second?
I'll do that, Gillian Thomas.
Thank you, Jillian. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding the minutes? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approval of the TAC minutes of April 7th, 2022, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the minutes are approved unanimously, and we will move on to item 6, the review of the draft board agenda. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our CEO and General Manager, Heather Domlin. Heather.
Thank you. I'm actually going to have Rhonda join in this item. She did prepare the staff report and recommendation, so I'll let her speak to the item. Thank you.
Okay, our first item is the amended rules of procedure for the Transit Advisory Committee and Board of Directors. Rhonda?
Thank you, Chairman and members of the TAC. In the last several years, we have had some difficulty receiving volunteers to hold our officer positions for the TAC. And currently 3 of the members have served multiple times. That's Aaron Stum, Dave Wessel, and Jillian Thomas. And there was a suggestion from one of your peers that we consider doing a rotation by agency for the TAC. And then Heather and I had discussions with our attorneys and thought that may be something that the board would also want to do. So we have proposed some changes to our rules of procedure, primarily for the TAC, but also there's addendums to the board as well if they so choose. And then once we got into it, in addition, we found that that we may want to change the effective date to coincide with our elected officials' election cycles, because case in point this year, our chair for the board, Adam Shimoni, is not running, and he will be off the city council as of I think November would be his last meeting. So that would hold true potentially for also Supervisor Vasquez and other members in the future during that rotation. So in order to make things match up, if it's the board's desire, then we will put that into effect as well. The year of officers changing every January instead of every June. And then in the when we revised the rules of procedure in 2020, we still had the Metro Plan Manager as the main member. And so we are changing that language to state that the Executive Director is the main member. And that is my explanation of the overall changes and summary. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer this. Thank you. Questions or discussion?
Okay, any questions for Rhonda or any concerns about the possibility that you, under your agency role, might be tagged to be chairman? Thoughts? I will take silent as assent and support for this. Unless we have any comments.
Hey,
Aaron?
Dave, it's Aaron Stom. It's Aaron Stom. I was trying to allow others airtime, but as somebody who has served multiple times, I am all for this.
I don't think it's appropriate for me as chair to comment on that, but yeah, I think this is an opportunity for people to share in the responsibility. And Aaron, as you have said many times, it's a pretty light load. And I think this is an excellent opportunity to see that load is shared. So if there's no other comment or concerns, let's move on to the next item. Rhonda, do you have everything you need from that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, let's go on to item 2, the election of vice chair of the board of directors.
This item is on the agenda in case the rules of procedure are not adopted for the board. In which case we would potentially hold elections or ask that our current members continue at least through January. So,
Okay, and that's pretty simple. This is the current status of the board here on screen.
yes, it is.
Okay, and so if the board doesn't adopt this rotation by agency, they'll continue with the status quo. Any questions for Rhonda? All right, thank you, Rhonda.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, Aaron.
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute as quickly as possible. So just a quick question. Is it okay if the board maintains status quo, but the TAC does agency rotation? Is it okay that both do it 2 different ways?
That is possible, depending on. what
Okay,
the board
thank you.
decides. Yes.
All right. Thank you for that question, Aaron. Let's move on to item 3, the FY 2023 procurement resolution. Josh Stone, our Management Services Director. Josh.
Good morning. Thank you. This is actually a repeat from June. It was in the agenda in June. But there was time constraints and a couple of questions. So we're bringing it up. So this is just to authorize the CEO and general manager to approve and execute contracts on behalf of the board that are projects within the budget, the capital improvement plan and the financial plan, which I think are all attached. So if there's any questions.
Any questions for Josh? And I do have one quick question. So there's the list of the 5-year capital improvement plan, 10-year financial plan. Is that kind of standard procedures? It's just a renewal of this authorization?
Correct.
Okay. Well, thank you for the presentation, Josh. Any further discussions? All right. Let's move on to item 4, the Downtown Connection Center update. I think that's Heather is going to fill in for Kate.
Actually, Anne is joining us and she's going to present on behalf of Kate because Kate is on
excellent.
well-deserved vacation.
Thank you, Anne. Go ahead.
Of the TAC, Ann Dunno, Capital Project Manager, as stated, filling in for Kate Morley. This item is really an update for the board. We are not seeking action, but just kind of a status on where we're at on design. So next slide, please, Rhonda. A few of the components that we're working on as part of the design process for approvals. The city did receive notice that they could acquire the BNS sliver that are separating the 2 city parcels. So city real estate is working on that right now. We, as everyone I assume heard via a really good announcement from Mountain Line that we did get an additional $6 million from the state of Arizona. Successful work by Heather and Kate at the state level to bring in $6 million with no additional match required to allow us to cover some of the cost escalation that we're seeing in our project, as our many projects, which is really good news. The other kind of related to real estate component, we are working on the appraisal process right now to value the land, and that will provide the local match land value. So we're working on that. The NEPA is close to being completed. The final reports are with the State Historic Preservation Office, and we hope to get FTA concurrence on our NEPA in September. That's our schedule at this moment. In terms of design, the design team is working with our owner representative nations group, our design team HDR, and our CMAR, Lovin Construction, and Woodson Engineering. It's a big team. We're working towards 50% design right now. We have spent the last couple of months really kind of refining the programming and just working towards some design updates on the building, which I'll show you in a moment. And then the other sort of administrative approval process is at the last council meeting, I believe it was May, they did approve the IGA for the city manager can, once our NEPA is completed, we're able to actually fully execute the IGA with the city, which we would then anticipate this fall. So next slide, please, Rhonda. And this is a snapshot of kind of the latest building rendering. From our CUP approval, we have obviously gone deeper into design, and there has been some minor refinements on the floor plan, and bringing on the design team, fully working with this. We're keeping the same kind of welcoming entrance, very similar materials, the warm stone, the warm wood. We have the renderings you're seeing right now. We're working on landscape design work with Norris Design. They're on the team for developing that. We're also coordinating with the city's art and beautification group to have public art on this building. They're looking at a kind of an art glass design that will work in on the front. So this is the view that you would see kind of standing from the south westerly side, kind of looking towards the lobby. You can see that bike lockers are in the front here. We did, they're obviously working on the grand staircase and railings and all of that. We're working through some of the design pieces there. Next slide, Rhonda. This is another view really more directly from the east, looking back to the west. The front door, you can see the lobby and the glazing. The door you see in the front with the little staircase, that's really the main operator entrance, where operators will be coming and going all day long to access the break room. And we also will be able to have a police substation kind of in this location as well. So they'll have easy access to the building. Again, the roof line, developing kind of those pieces. It'll have solar on top. And you can kind of see that we're trying to coordinate with the future Amtrak location to make sure the building heights and everything will work in the future if Amtrak is able to move their station in the future. But we are working to make sure the building would work with that future improvement. So, next slide, please, Rhonda. And this is a view from Milton. And again, we're working through landscaping components. That'll be a big part of this, the changes you'll see over the next couple of months. But this is the community room side that you're seeing on that kind of Milton face edge. There are obviously ADA ramp and stairs, but we'll be working through kind of design elements on those stairs and ramps. That'll have a nice kind of public entrance there, kind of an open area in the front that'll have probably planters and some other things that the landscape team is working on. Next slide, please, Rhonda. And this is the view from Phoenix Avenue, looking, right into the lobby. And then you can see the kind of the glazing entrance off to the side for the community room. There will be that middle sort of set of doors is really what we're calling a tenant space that could be for Amtrak, could be for another third party social service group that's still, it's being developed so that it can be flexible. You can see the kind of the overhang glazing on top with the roof line. And again, we'll be definitely working with the team for softening with landscaping. This is kind of the area where there will be, they're working on the elevations right now with, obviously with the floodplain. So it'll have kind of some stairs and some different levels, but there'll be opportunity for some, wayfinding and signage here. And yeah, next slide, please, Rhonda. So really the next key steps for the design team and the design process is we're working on 50% design documents that we anticipate by the end of August. We do need to update, refine our site plan and resubmit that to the city just for an update. But we're anticipating going out for public stakeholder, South Side, public input again. Probably at this point, it's late September, early October. And with that, we're going to be able to also start in on design of phase 2, the bus bay and the civic space more on that east side. We'll be starting to kind of layer that in as part of the design process, get our NEPA done this September. And then the aim is to break ground with the demolition in November of 2022 and begin vertical construction in February, late winter of 2023. So that's kind of the schedule right now. And with that, I believe that's my last slide. And if there's any questions or comments, I'd love to welcome any questions. Thanks.
Excellent, Ann. Thank you very much. Questions or comments for Ann and the Downtown Connection Center? Maybe a quick yes or no question. There had been, I think, several discussions about the ADA access from the east side of the building. And has that been addressed and resolved?
Do you want to go back, Rhonda, to maybe one of those slides? That first one's probably a good one. To answer your question, yes and no. They're working through, right now, the way it's designed is, that's actually from Milton. I mean, we are obviously in the floodplain, and there's just some base, requirements that we're going to have the building so many feet above the base flood elevation. And so we are working to have, we're not going to be able to achieve the ideal universal design, which I know would have been very ideal, just to have, walking from phase 2, just having one even plane up, just given the challenges with the floodplain in that area. They are working through to try to make sure that the ADA access is as equitable. It comes out at the top at the same location. For example, you can't really see it very well from this view, but as this staircase entry. But I will definitely bring that back up again with the design team to do everything we can to make sure that the ramps and everything flow really well and have equitable, access in terms of the time it takes someone to be on a ramp. And this is definitely an area I know they're working on, with this ramp versus the staircase. There are some challenges on the Milton side with literally the future right of way and just the requirements to say so many feet off and what you can put in the offset from a zoning standpoint. So I know we're kind of working on that, but that's a good point. Dan,
Okay.
Bring that
Well,
forward.
thank you for addressing that. Any other questions or comments for Ann? All right. Well, thank you, Ann. Let's move on to item 5. The delegation of authority to the CEO and general manager to execute the Mountain Express service agreement with Arizona Snowbowl Resort Limited Partnership. Looks like this is Busy Collins.
Hi, thank you, Chair, members of the TAC, Busy Collins. So we've been in discussions with Arizona Snow Bowl on renewing the contract. It is up for renewal, and there has been discussion about where the approval does lie, and so we're just wanting to make a placeholder on the August agenda, should that need to come to board. Any questions about that? Or Heather, would you like to?
Yeah, if I could, I'd just like to clarify that the board typically has 3 separate resolutions to delegate certain authorities to the CEO position. 2 of those are renewed annually. That's our grant resolution and our procurement resolution. The other resolution was a blanket resolution for contracts and governmental agreements. And generally, we would handle Snow Bowl under that 3rd blanket resolution. Because of some concerns that were brought forward recently by one of our board members, we decided to pull this, put it on the agenda so that the board could really engage and make sure that they still want this enacted under that delegation to give us the flexibility, but to be able to provide them the information so they're comfortable with our relationship. So that's how it got on the agenda, and I appreciate Busy speaking to it briefly. And we're happy to answer any questions that you may have as TAC members.
Thank you for that explanation, Heather. Any questions or comments regarding the Snow Bowl agreement and delegation of authority to the CEO? Going once, going twice. I don't hear any questions or comments, so it's an excellent relationship, and hope to see it continue. So thank you. We ready to move on to the next item? Okay. Next item, Busy is still in place there. Flagstaff in motion. A community transit plan, an update on the plan. Busy?
Chair, members of the TAC, Busy Collins. I'm excited to be bringing Flagstaff in motion back to you all. We've made some good progress over the summer, and we're continuing to move through. Overall, the objective of this project is to identify the best way to provide and fund mountain line services. And here's just an overview of where we're at in the process. So we're still working to develop those transit scenarios, which is part of what I'll be talking about today. And once we have some additional items to bring to the public to confirm some priorities, then we can move on to stage 4 and really start diving into the funding aspects, finalizing those scenarios. What does it look like in a no funding scenario? What does it look like in a funding scenario? What are those funding sources? All of those really exciting questions. And then just some placeholders to make sure that we're keeping our Citizen Advisory Committee or CAC, as it's listed here, involved. They're incredible members of the community, really representing a lot of the transit riders, so I want to make sure that they're giving their input as well as the TAC, the board, and riders as part of that public input. And we are hoping to finalize this plan within this year. We have, based on the May advance, thank you for your input, really been able to streamline how we finish this plan. And so I'm excited. We have a very condensed timeline, but we're on track and looking to finish the end of the year. So I'm just gonna see one more catch-up slide. So I just want to remind you that, and you do have in your packet this transit needs assessment, that there's a snapshot on the screen here. And this is just a reminder that staff really prioritize all of our needs in the community, our current routes and neighborhoods. So we have that prioritized need, and then really identifying what the problem is we're trying to solve, and then possible solutions. And so what I'm presenting today are recommendations from staff on the best possible solutions to address those problems. And the scenarios list shown below are really for evaluation. We grouped various improvements into 3 scenarios. Those are not the final scenarios by any means. It was just allowing us to evaluate them. And that evaluation score did contribute into our decision-making and recommendations. So I have a couple different groupings. I'm going to start with improvements with staff consensus. Again, we're still working through this list, as you'll likely not see every single item, every one of the 34 items on our prioritized list. But what we do have available, and so these are consensus items, and I would love to hear from you all if staff is on track. So the first item is how do we fix route timing issues? We know that we're going to get our electric buses. Electric buses require charging. That requires a certain amount of time at the downtown convention center during the layover to achieve that charging. So that does affect routes 4, 7, and 10 on our current schedule. And then we are also experiencing missed layovers and some on-time performance issues with routes 7, 10, and 14. And the map in the top right have the routes that are described here highlighted. So our 7 is purple, 10 is red, 4 and 14 is the yellow. And yep, those are the ones being impacted among both of those timing issues. And so overall, staff is really focused on being strategic and prioritizing efficiency through many small solutions. We looked at the possibility of adding a bus during peak times or during all day. That's to the tune of $500,000 if it's all of the time. And staff really said, I think we can be really strategic about this. We don't think that the large chunk of money is actually the best way to use taxpayer funds. And I think we can do a lot of small things. So listed here are those small things that would all add up. And we think that we can achieve our runtime, be reliable for the riding public through a couple things. So we are going to learn so much once we get our electric buses, and we will be monitoring our the amount of time it does take to charge, how is our layovers working for that, and we are going to, part of that is that we can miss a few rounds of charging and still have a running bus. So we'll be, monitoring that once we get the electric buses in. But really, it's those peak congestion periods in the afternoon that our routes are most impacted, that they're missing their layovers. And so we think that we can miss a few charging periods and keep the bus running on time and still make up that charging period after the peak congestion period. We're also looking at focusing layover time at the downtown connection center, DCC, and reducing the mall connection center, MCC layover to a few minutes. So the DCC is the main location of charging our buses and making sure that we're maximizing that. It's also, we've definitely heard from operators that that is where operators can use the restroom. There isn't a restroom at the mall connection center. So just trying to maximize all of the facilities and needs that are available that can be addressed at the downtown connection center, while still making sure that the mall connection center buses come in, they have time to meet, riders can connect to different routes and continue their trip. Adjusting time points, definitely have heard from operations that there's some wiggle room on Route 7 and on Route 10, adjusting those time points so where we're actually grading ourselves on time performance, which operators need to adhere to, which maybe they're standing down when they don't need to be, which is what we've been observing. So adjusting those time points and route time overall. So just kind of adjusting our schedules. Transit signal priority, TSP, so shaving some minutes off on various locations per the strategic investment plan recommendations. That's absolutely a capital investment, a lot of coordination with our partners, the city, ADOT, who own those roadways. So there's a lot there, but I think having the recommendation in the plan would really help us to continue that conversation and explore those options. And then another option that we need further analysis is fare-free during peak congestion. It's an opportunity. We're going to be looking at fare-free impacts and benefits across the system. We do see this would be the greatest benefit in reducing dwell time. So Route 66 currently has our greatest dwell time per stop. And a large part of that is fumbling for cash, trying to get your fare, trying to get on board, the line of people that are stacked up waiting to get on the bus. So we do double boarding, getting on the bus that help us shave some minutes. So again, just these many small solutions. So I have 4 slides here on recommended improvements. I'm going to go through those and then pause for questions. And I would love to address any questions, and I can go back to slides. Excellent. So recommendations for route improvements. Again, here the bold routes on the map are the ones identified in the list. So every list that I have is in order of our prioritized transit needs. So Route 66 is our #1 transit need, and really increasing frequency during peak and off-peak was the recommended solution by staff. There is also an option that we're neutral on that we could simply increase frequency during off-peak. So peak is 30 minutes currently, off-peak is 60 minutes. Could that be, ideally that would be better for our riding public. We do serve a lot of low-income minority individuals along that route. So it is a very high priority need. And that is the red line on the map. Route 8 is it's lower on the list. I'm sorry, and actually Route 2 is our next in line. I will make sure that that's corrected for the board. So Route 2 is our 4th highest priority. And that is the blue line on the map, and the little loop over McMillan Mesa is currently a deviation. It's served in the morning and afternoon during school days only. And so making that a permanent route is currently, we have some development going on. There's definitely some youth and senior populations in that area. Basis is there. There's a couple senior housing. There's also the veterans home, which is built, I saw, and but not yet moved in. That whole Mesa is blowing up, as we all know. Lots of people coming in, good density. It makes a lot of sense to make that a permanent part of the route. However, when we do in our current route alignment, we have to backtrack when we're heading east. So when we're heading west. So from the mall to the downtown convention center, we need to go in to McMillan Mesa, loop around the roundabout, come back out. It causes Route 2 to be delayed every time. It takes a couple rounds for Route 2 to stay on time or to get back on time. And so if we were able to head westward and take a left off the Mesa onto Forest, then we can stay on time. We can serve that as a regular part of our route. We do see the most ridership heading westbound. So we could serve it eastbound all day long. We'd be helping some people, but heading westbound is really the main travel pattern. So trying to make that permanent, it would be an infrastructure improvement. There's a lot of challenges to doing this. So the approach would be having a study, understanding what the best possible infrastructure improvement is, that's most viable, and then working to get a construction grant for that. This improvement does not add any costs for operations. We can serve it all day long if we can make that left turn westbound off the Mesa. No need to change our run time, etc. So that is the recommendation. And then the third item, Route 8, I apologize, it's #2 here, that's 23rd on our list. However, it's kind of high because there's the West Route 66 and North Route 66. West Route 66 on the north and south sides. So the Railroad Springs area, Presidio, Timber Sky, etc. Those neighborhoods are very high on our transit needs assessment list. And so Route 8 is the teal route on the map, and the extension is the dashed line that would go down to the Woody Mountain roundabout and return, so we could maintain our current Route 8 alignment and just add on. We can do that with one bus every 30 minutes. And so that was our previous 5-year transit plan, and it has really passed our evaluation criteria to be a high need for this transit plan as well. I have 2 more slides, and I'm happy to take some questions on this. Coverage improvements. So what can we do low hanging fruit to enable more people to access the transit routes we have today? And this map is very busy. However, the light blue shaded area is the walkshed, quarter-mile walkshed to all of our bus stops using the road network. And then we've got the Huntington Industrial Microtransit Zone in the light orange. And then we have e-bike and scooter share potential areas in yellow. So can we work with the city's vendor to prioritize some areas when the e-bike or scooter share vendor is not selected? That's all to be determined. But once that's on board, can we really maximize our current route alignments and provide better access to our current system? And then there's also the recommended bus stop additions, which are black dots with an orange below. And you can see how that really pops in some areas where there's missing light blue shaded, the walk shed area. So just adding some bus stops along our current routes could really help increase transit access for what we have today. And then just ped and bike improvements. So we 100% support all of the items on the active transportation master plan. There are some very specific areas that impact transit access listed here. And so really just prioritizing those in our plan, again, being able to point to that in the future. There's a lot of challenges with all of these capital improvements, last slide and this slide, but we would have them on the plan, be able to point to them, and then work through those challenges. And maybe the challenges are too great, we can't actually achieve them, but I think having it in the plan, having it as a goal is very important. So I'll pause there. Any questions about items that have staff consensus?
Thank you, Busy. A lot of exciting stuff going on there. Questions for Busy regarding the last slides and the Flagstaff in Motion plan? Busy, I am curious, on the previous slide, you had a numerous additional bus stops, and just you and the staff are comfortable that we can maintain on-time performance with the additional stops.
Yeah, we absolutely looked at dwell time for the stops along the routes. How would that impact our runtime? And we can do it. Part of the ability for us to do it would be some of these small solutions. So, adjusting the layover times from Mall Connection Center to the Downtown Connection Center, having that transit signal priority. All of these things really help make more resilient routes for current traffic congestion impacts and at least the foreseeable future traffic impacts. So yes. To your question, David, yes.
Excellent. I commend you on all those small increments adding up to something important. That's great. Commend you and the staff for working through those. Any other questions or comments for Busy on the plan?
They do have a few more slides. Sure.
Okay. All right. Continue, please.
Great. So then there are many improvements that we need further analysis to arrive at recommendations. And here's a few of those. Okay. So Ponderosa Trails and Airport, that comes up a lot. So Ponderosa Trails Airport is number 10 on our prioritized list. Good density in, medium density in Ponderosa Trails area. Good alignment with airport, great service. Airport area is absolutely increasing in commercial businesses. That's a great employer target for Mountain Line to have. Does it make sense with all of the other costs that we're looking at? To be determined. So we don't have cost estimates yet. We're working through that. So how does the bottom line of all of the improvements that we already mentioned allow us to also do Ponderosa Trails and Airport, to be determined. Route 5, it definitely makes a lot of sense to increase frequency to 30 minutes by adding a bus to that route. That is an increase of cost, is at the highest need on our list. So Route 5 is number 13 on our prioritized list. It's medium in there. And does this make the most sense with all of our other wish list items to be determined? Another item is Route 3, so making the 4th Street deviation part of the regular route. There's a whole lot of density on 4th Street. Our current routing is on Fox Glen. And 4th Street deviation was part for the NPA school, and that does occur only on school days. But the density makes a lot of sense. Transit loves density. We get very high ridership there. So making sure that people in the area, do want to ride transit. Some more analysis there, and what does that cost? And part of the added cost would be adding microtransit and country club to continue serving that Fox Glen Street. We're not interested in removing service from where we have it today. That was definitely a stipulation from staff, is we would only make this deviation permanent if we can replace Fox Glen Street with a microtransit service. What does that cost? Where does that lie in our priorities? And Route 3 is number 14 on our list. So medium currently. Another item is University Heights. Microtransit makes a lot of sense in University Heights. It could be a small zone. It would really help connect people in. Is it the highest need on our list? No. Let's see where it falls. But, 16, there we go. So again, lower on our list, what is the cost? Can we squeeze it in there with everything else that we want to do? And then there's many other recommendations that we need writer input on their priorities. We need cost estimates to understand how they fit in with all of our other wish list items previously mentioned. Those include late night service, our peak span, so where we're providing the highest level of service. Currently, it's approximately 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Should that include Saturday? Should that be longer? Should that be longer on which side? Should it be shorter? Could we do more creative things and provide excellent levels of service, such as microtransit? Start and end of service. So currently our routes really vary. When we start or end service, it's approximately 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. However, Route 10 goes more to 11 p.m. So our hub and pulse systems, it make more sense to have everything match up and have that span smoothing very much more similar start and end of service across our system. Saturday service matching weekend service, weekday service. We hear that from the public, but is that the highest priority? So really putting all of these opportunities to them as a this or that, what's rising to the top for our riders. And then the last item is just frequency of connections. We need more analysis and really to understand how often people are connecting between routes. And does our current, the table below and all of the colors is how our buses are currently meeting at either the downtown connection center on the left or the mall connection center. And you can see sometimes they meet and sometimes they don't. And depending on which direction, if you're transferring from the 2 to the 3, that it could really increase your travel time across our Flagstaff area. So should we have really a frequencies being matched across our routes? Or is it better to have different frequencies where we have the opportunities to increase where it makes the most sense, and where there's lower density 5, maybe it's a lower frequency. Does that make sense for our system? Does that work for our riders? So those are questions we have yet to answer. And then I believe this is the last item, is the recommendations to be determined with funding partnerships. So we have possible route alignments for the new NAH route. How does that get funded? We currently don't have capacity in our transit sales tax. That is looking to come online, phase starting 2025, 2027 is what I'm currently hearing, but that's all to be determined. That's going to have a major impact. It's a major destination for our riding public. So making sure that we're figuring out how that is served and what does the rest of the system look like with that route. And really understanding how do we fund it. And then there's the outlying areas that are commuting into the city, and we don't have funding available for that either. Is it appropriate under the city sales tax approved by city voters? Likely not. So how does that get funded? Making sure that we're working with our county partners on how we're presenting that in the plan. We do have some recommendations on how best to serve those areas, but that all takes additional funding. So working with our county partners on what's the best way to present that in the plan. How do we leave those statements that we can point to when we're asked by the public? We get asked a lot of all of these outlying areas, and it'd be nice to have something to point to, but working with our county partners to make sure that that's presented in the best way. So I'm going to pause there, and then I just have one last slide of next steps. Any questions on recommendations to be determined?
Any questions for Busy? All right, you got a lot going on there, Busy. Thank you very much. Let's go to your last slide.
Awesome, thank you, Chair. So again, I mentioned right now we're working through cost estimates for all of these improvements. Next steps will be rider outreach to understand their priorities, recommendations that are yet to be determined, getting our citizen advisory committee together and having getting their input on these priorities as well. And further analysis, so once we have all of that input, we'll bring it back to staff to finalize some recommendations and where is that cutoff, and then also funding sources. Is it all on this transit sales tax revenue? Is that the only opportunity that we have? So making sure that first our city partners are interested in exploring other funding revenue sources. And if that's not the case, that it is on city sales tax, and we can really understand where to draw that line. What's the most appropriate level of funding and what number of improvements could we do with that funding? That's all I have. Thank you so much for your time today. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have.
Okay. Last chance for questions for Busy. All right, Busy. Thank you. Just want to maybe remind everyone that there is a grant between Mountain Line and Metro Plan for creative match, since that last point was on funding, and look forward to getting started on that. So let's go on to our next item. Thank you, Busy. Next item on the agenda is the Northern Arizona Healthcare Hospital relocation update. It looks like Heather's going to take this one in place of Kate.
I am, thank you. So good morning, everyone on the committee, and Chair Wessel. I really wanted to, I'll do my best to speak on Kate's behalf, but this is meant to be a brief update on conversations that we continue to have with Northern Arizona Healthcare and their partner, Gentera, on a transit plan and funding options for the hospital's relocation. So not much has really changed since we presented this to the board and TAC last spring. We did have an opportunity recently to resubmit comments to the city of Flagstaff as NAH has resubmitted some information on the project. Unfortunately, there have not been a lot of conversations since we brought our last update. Until recently, there have been a flurry of conversations in the last 30 days. So I think I speak appropriately on behalf of Kate and Busy in really saying that we feel like we're starting to see some forward motion in developing a transit service plan, a plan for transit or connection at NAH's potential property off of Buell Boulevard near Fort Tut Hill. What we asked for in our letter that was submitted to the city previously is that the rezoning not be approved unless NAH and Mountain Line had a plan for how folks in our community would access that hospital or those care services that will be provided there. And part of that plan was also the funding strategies for that. We, of course, have offered a plan for Mountain Line to provide a route to that location and what it would cost. We've recommended a frequency based on current service levels and projected demand. We have also offered the hospital several funding options that they could consider. I will just say that really the city is looking at this as part of the development plan in that rezoning. And therefore, all of the decisions about how that service may or may not be funded would be funneled directly to the city of Flagstaff and not to Mountain Line. So we've been supportive of saying, here's how we can provide transit, here's how much you should anticipate it cost, but ultimately deferring to NAH and now Gentera and the city of Flagstaff on how they might fund that strategy. So recently, Kate and I met with Gentera. The two representatives at Gentera that we're working with are Eric Maza and Rich Bowen. Since that first initial meeting, I have had a follow-up meeting with Rich, and then Kate and Busy have had follow-up meetings with Erica. And just most recently, we resubmitted comments to the city of Flagstaff to reiterate that we are having these conversations, that a plan has not yet been developed, but that we remain hopeful that we can reach that plan and support the NAH project. We submitted those comments to the city this week, and I have also gone ahead and forwarded those to Gentera and NAH, as I really want to be transparent and in that partnership with those individuals. One item that has come up in NAH resubmission to the city is that they have proposed that if they are unable to develop a plan with Mountain Line for transit programs, that they themselves would offer shuttle services to individuals in this community needing access to that site. And in response to that, Busy has put together a memo that really compares how that shuttle service looks like our micro transit programs and how it is a much more costly solution than a fixed route service. That has been provided to Gentera and NAH, but has not yet been submitted to the city of Flagstaff. I believe we have offered that we would like to take comments from NAH and Gentera before we submit that memo to the city in support of our additionally submitted comments. So with that, that's the brief update that I have. I hope I covered all the points. I'm kind of looking busy because she's been involved in a lot of these conversations, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Heather. I appreciate that progress, or at least discussions are ramping up again, and hopeful that the partnership can be established. Any questions or comments for Heather regarding the hospital relocation? I'm not hearing anything. So Heather, anything else on this item?
The only other thing I would offer is that we do anticipate that Gentera may attend the board meeting in August. When we present this update, we have certainly welcomed them to those public meetings and will make space for them if they wish to make any comments to our board.
Okay, thank you. Well, that brings us to item 8, updates to the 2025 strategic plan. Heather?
All right. Well, thank you again. This update was actually prepared for the May joint meeting and then was tabled because of time available at that meeting. We then agendized it in June, and because of the wildfires burning in our area, ended up with an abbreviated June meeting, and now here we are in August. So briefly, I will go through this with probably more slides than I'm going to dig into the details, but want to be able to provide you with an update on where we're at with the goals, objectives, and tasks that are contained in the 2020 to 2025 strategic plan, and to briefly provide you with a preview of next steps. I'm going to try and advance 2 slideshows at the same time. One on my computer. Do you want me to do this? Yeah, it won't move. And one on the screen. All right. So the 2020 to 2025 strategic plan, just a brief review of the history. It was adopted in 2019. It was a 5-year strategic plan with our 6 goals. Each of those goals has defined objectives, and then the objectives were further defined into a 12 to 18-month task or task list. We have been providing updates on the tasks themselves over the years. The last one we presented at the May of 2021 meeting. So here's the first goal in the strategic plan, which is service excellence, and you can see the 3 objectives that are under that. And those objectives are all designed to support our efforts to provide excellent service to our community and partners. So the 4 bullets on the screen are all items that really we can mark off our list as done. We have unfortunately not completed all of the items under service enhancements, and so we do have 2 bullet points that are the 2 items still to be done. So prioritizing implementation of service increases is tied to finishing the Flagstaff in Motion plan. And we did do a demonstration of the on-demand program. It just did not occur by June of 2020. We did it in the spring of 2022. The next goal under service excellence is investing in capital. And these 6 bullet points here are about the capital projects that we have completed. And we do have 2 other projects that are in progress. And that's really the developing the plan to address transit stop accessibility gaps. And some of that was in the Flagstaff in Motion plan. And then the transit enhancements, which are also part of our Flagstaff in Motion plan. Sorry. Community relations. We initially wanted to partner with the City of Winslow and the Alliance members. We're calling them complete, but the truth is neither of them came to fruition. And we have 3 other things that are still in progress. We're looking at how we coordinate with NACOG, and Busy just disclosed maybe some other transit park or other regional partners in our area for how we expand our services. And then the policies and procedures with the City of Flagstaff, that's a work that is ongoing. And that's really about how does Mountain Line become integrated into City of Flagstaff's policies and procedures. And we do need to still review our partner agreements. We can skip that slide. The next goal in our strategic plan is really about being stewards of resources. How do we be effective and ensure that we use our resources appropriately in respect for our taxpayer money? Next slide. So these first 2 things, honoring the 2008 voter intent and the Coconino County Sustainable Building Certification, are both complete. Maintaining our facilities and equipment. So here are 4 items that we identified as critical in the first 18 months of the plan. And I'm happy to report those are also complete. And the last one refers to our transit asset management plan and the scoring criteria for the bus stop amenities and tying it to our transit guidelines. That is still a work in progress. Third goal within our strategic plan is about investing in Mountain Line's workplace and our workforce, and I will tell you this is probably where 90% of our energy has gone in the last 12 months. Next slide. I'm happy to report we have been able to engage employees in detailed training programs within 14 days of a job offer. That first one is complete, and really want to compliment our operations director, Jim Wagner. We really are taking people the day they come in for an interview and putting them to work as soon as possible. If they don't have their CDL and they don't have their permit, we're using them in our bus stop maintenance program. We're using them here in our building. We're putting them on the platform. But we have found if we get them to work right away, we prevent them from seeking job elsewhere while they wait for our training program. The other three things in progress under our training and development objective is to create and implement a defined refresher training program. Mountain Line has really focused on new employee training over the last 2 years, trying to get our workforce back up to speed, to capacity. We are working right now on what are the refresher trainings that we are behind on in order to get our workforce back to where they need to be. We continue to work on standard operating procedures. And the last one is an outreach program to address employee development and to distribute annual information on development opportunities. So we have a job shadowing program here that we're looking at getting kind of refreshed and reinstated as we get back to full employment. Right. Assess operational structure. So what we did here, these are both completed. We really initially have reduced our dependency on overtime and took our staffing positions. We used to have a paratransit operator and a bus operator. We have combined those. We have one position now, transit operator. And that allows us to move our staff around as necessary across our programs. It'll tell you in the last year, our dependency on overtime is not where we want it to be. We've really gotten to a place where we were full-time status in such a way that we didn't use overtime, but we're not able to keep full-time status or full-time employment capacity met. So that has resulted in a lot of overtime in the last 12 months. But the combination of the positions has been very beneficial because it hasn't been about which position you're qualified to serve in. It's about where is the need from our perspective. We do have several drivers that are grandfathered in. We have one driver on our paratransit side that has been driving paratransit for more than 20 years. We did not ask her to go get a CDL and learn to drive the bus. And then we have other drivers that are 20 years in the bus side that we are not asking to learn the unique culture of the paratransit programs. But all new staff are asked to work across both of the programs. And the other thing in their workforce is really talking about our workplace culture. And I'm happy to report that we really have looked at our benefit programs and our time off programs. Most recently, we introduced evacuation leave for employees as part of this program. And we keep talking about what other things we can do to improve employee health and wellness benefits. So that first one will mark complete, and the other three are all still in progress. One of those is really working with NAPAT and our NAPAT wellness programs. For anyone that's not familiar, NAPAT is the Employee Benefit Trust that the city, the county, Mountain Line, the school district, and the community college participate in. But working with them on how we engage our employees better in that benefit, that wellness program. And then it goes again into how do we make sure that employees are engaged in our decision making here at work. Goal 4 is our enhanced safety culture. So Sam and Jim have done a lot of work in this area to improve our focus on safety. Go to the next slide, you'll see a lot of the tasks here have been completed, including partnering with the Emergency Operations Center here in Flagstaff on community evacuation. And the one we are still working on is a coordinated safety awareness message with our partners here in Flagstaff about how our different modes can intersect and interact in our community, with safety being the highest awareness. Creating a safe environment. So this is us working with the city of Flagstaff to identify opportunities on lighting. This came up several years ago. And then security measures at the DCC. And I'm happy to report that both of those are considered complete. And we are still working on evaluating new bus stop locations and safety aspects such as lighting and proximity to pedestrian crossings, all part of our transit guidelines. And we have a grant and a program and a project that we are working with the city of Flagstaff to bring bike and pedestrian improvements adjacent to our transit routes through our community. We recently signed that IGA. We're working now on a scope of work to hire a contractor. So starting to see forward movement in how Mountain Line participates in that important development in our community. These tasks under this objective safety improvements are all complete. Goal 5 is community engagement. This is a lot of our outreach around the community and looking to make sure we keep our stakeholders engaged. Next slide. We have completed, even through COVID, 6 community presentations a year to these groups and partners. And we are working now on a way or a strategy to encourage our key stakeholders to get on the bus and be models of using transit. Increasing community awareness, again, difficult to do during COVID, but happy to report that we have attended community events as they are available. Our outreach, like as we talked about with Flagstaff in Motion, we've done the same with DCC, and really transitioning our public image from NAPTA to Mountain Line. You just have to ignore the sign that's right here. But most other things you'll notice say Mountain Line now instead of NAPTA, and that's because we are proud of that program that we have in this community. Those will all be marked complete, and we are still working on a plan to educate the community about the role transit plays in supporting a wide variety of community goals. This is the connection of transit to affordable housing, congestion relief, health, environment, and economic development. And the last goal is fiscal responsibility. We'll jump right into the objectives and the tasks. So a 10-year capital plan and compensation philosophy, those were both completed in the timeline set out in the original strategic plan. Next slide. Diversifying funding, retaining our EcoPass holders, even throughout COVID, we were able to do that. We have identified new partnerships, not necessarily for expansion of routes, although we do use those funds in our overall programs. We have 2 residential programs in place and 1 coming online. And then evaluate and implement recommendations of the fare studies. Those are all complete. In fact, we now have mobile ticketing available and fare capping, which were both identified in that plan. The things that we still are working on are growing our EcoPass program, connecting health benefits to the use of transit. That includes potentially engaging NAPAT into buying passes for all NAPAT members as a connection of transit and wellness. And the last one is to continue conversations with CCC and NAU about a universal access pass. We did have conversations with NAU this past spring, and I hope to resume those again this fall. Next slide. Expanding our funding sources. So we've looked at private sources and we retained our membership with these national organizations. And as we all know, that was very beneficial in the IIJA, which brought a 30% increase in funding to Flagstaff. We are still working on an implementation plan to diversify those sources further with both the city and other public partners, and coordinating and developing an implementation plan with our state transit peers. So when we envisioned 2020 to 2025 strategic plan, I don't know that we had a clear objective on what money we would ask for from the state. I am very grateful that we were able to take advantage of one-time funding that the state had and be successful in bringing that to the community, but we're not done. We are going to go back to the state legislation and seek some changes in funding and see if the state won't become a better partner for transit funding. So really our next steps are going to be at our advance in October. And the tentative plan is to affirm the goals and objectives, evaluating any input you have today or between now and October, and then really to update the task. And we have some suggestions we're going to make about how to make sure that our plan, which is a 5-year plan, remains relevant while we set 12 and 18-month goals. The last piece will be to finish up the key performance indicator work that's being done through Flagstaff in Motion and have those be adopted and complement that plan. And that is everything that I have on the update, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Looks like a lot of great progress. Any questions or comments for Heather regarding the strategic plan?
Yes, this is Jeff Milebeck. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you. It's a question about page 85 of the packet. It's page 2 of the strategic work plan, and it refers to the Caspar intersection and building that out as a way to reduce deadhead miles and, increase arguably, I think, the speed with which the buses travel en route. And it also occurs to me that with the property that, first of all, a question, did that include punching Linda Vista all the way through to connect with Route 66?
And I would like, if you don't mind, to answer your question and maybe anticipate your follow-up. So the Caspar intersection project did not include pushing Linda Vista through. However, it did include design work on what I will call the northwest side of Caspar, which would have been where Linda Vista pushed through. So it contemplated what that entire intersection would look like on Caspar. And the project would have included a road improvement from, quote, that intersection, Linda Vista and Caspar, down to 366. That road improvement that would have allowed us to go straight out to Route 66 or Highway 89. Okay, sorry. Just want to make sure I'm giving the right road reference names. So right now our routes go in both directions from our facility to get out to the main road. This would have allowed us to do that. So the project did not contemplate Linda Vista's extension. Mountain continues to have a swath of land behind our property that we anticipate being needed for that roadway improvement in the future. So I would be happy to answer any further questions. I hope that answers that one.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions or comments regarding the strategic plan? Okay, that brings us to progress reports. And if I recall correctly, this is an opportunity for any of the TAC members to call one of these out for further discussion. Otherwise, if nobody has questions regarding these, we'll move on. So Heather will correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'll put it to the TAC. Does anybody have questions regarding any of these progress reports? Heather, is there any of these progress reports that you feel you want to bring to our attention?
Yes, I'd like to do a quick update under current events, but I didn't see my notes. So normally in current events, we talk about employee anniversaries. We talk about new employees and we talk about new employees and their anniversaries. So because we have not presented any information on these in several months, I have several slides to go through, but I believe in the value of recognizing our staff. So if you'll bear with me, I'd like to go through these anniversaries and then share with you a couple new employee announcements. I'm blank on the names in May. The first one was Ryan. So we go back one. So this is Ryan. He joined our driver pool roughly a year ago. And then another employee, Rosie Nez, is just finished 7 years in our driver pool, and she's also cross-trained to be one of our operations supervisors. Jimmy Gray, I don't have written down, but I know it's more than 15 years. I think Jimmy's been here as long as I have. Jimmy was a shared employee. He worked at Northern Arizona University and drove for us part-time. He retired several years ago from NAU and started working for us full-time. He doesn't want to be full-time, but he is currently working full-time. And Jimmy is a pretty amazing character within our driver segment. And Dano, we all know, works in our planning division and on many of our capital projects. And I think Ann's anniversary was her 7th anniversary, 10? 7. Okay. Sorry, I should have written these down. Next slide. Paul Remus is a returning employee. Paul used to work for us many years ago, and he recently returned and is completing I think he's a new employee in this slide because he's only been here a couple of months at this point. So we're glad to have him back on our team. He has a really great smile and our customers relate well to him. Liz joined us a couple months ago and went through our training program. She is also a transit operator. She had never driven anything bigger than a small car, and she's doing a phenomenally great job of managing up to 60 buses. Mitch, should have written these down. Mitch is our Montoya Fellow, so he serves in one of our internship positions within our planning division. And he started with us in summer, a couple months ago. So this would have been an introduction to him as a new employee as well. These are our June anniversaries. Karen, the first person in the red and bright vest there. Karen has been with us 8 years now. Karen has served in a variety of roles. She is a relief operations supervisor, qualified to drive both our buses and vans, but actually sits at our front desk, selling passes, talking to customers and planning trips. She's a real dynamic individual, serving almost anywhere we need her, and we appreciate her. Karen's also part of our outreach team, participating in public events. Jen Petrie is a transit bus operator. She has been with us for 11 years now, and she was recently featured in our Mountain Line Minute. And of course, we talked in June about Rhonda. Rhonda has now been here for 11 years, and we are so grateful to have her serving the clerk, the board, and the TAC, as well as assisting our staff here. Rob Leslie is the gentleman in the blue shirt. He is also a transit bus operator, and he has been here 7 years. Rob's favorite route to drive is Route 10. You can count on him to drive that route professionally. Tamara is the bottom in the white. Tamara started out with us as a transit operator, moved into our customer service position probably about 2 years into her career as a transit bus operator, and is now in our accounting division as an accounting tech 1. Tamara's been here 6 years now. And the last 2 individuals are Dave Wessel and Rosie Weir, who are with MetroPlan, and unfortunately you missed Jeff's picture. Jeff has 2 Mountain Line anniversaries, so it makes it confusing. But MetroPlan now joined Mountain Line about 2 years ago. So those are June anniversaries. Jumping into July, we have 4 anniversaries. Alyssa, up on the top right, is a transit bus operator, and she has been here roughly 2 years and came in. I think she was a college student looking for a part-time position, and 2 years later, she is still here with us doing a great job. Mark Attenberger has been in our fleet division for a long time, but actually started out as a transit operator, and he has 14 years with our organization, currently serving as a supervisor in our fleet division. Patrick Bowman is the bottom left, and Bozeman, sorry. In the blue shirt, Patrick joined as a transit operator 4 years ago and currently is serving in our operations supervisor role. And the last individual on these slides is Jerry Holsworth, and Jerry is a transit bus operator. We can count on him to also help with new employee training. He's very perceptive. He has been here about 4 years now. And these are August anniversaries, and there were quite a few this year. So on the top right is Russell Beck. Russell started out of CDL, came over from CCC, and I don't remember what he was doing there, but I know he has done home health care in the past. He served as a transit bus operator and then moved into the role of operations supervisor, which is where he's at now, and Russell is celebrating 5 years. Devin Dwyer, next to Russell there, has been here 2 years as a transit bus operator and is really a great individual on our team. Elliot Jim is in the middle of that top row. Elliot's also a transit operator with 2 years with us. Next to him is Frank Laskoda. Frank is celebrating 8 years with Mountain Line as a transit bus operator. He's a very reliable individual, helping pretty much anywhere we need him. Greg Lyons is a mechanic with our division, and he has been here 11 years. Moving to the bottom row, you may recognize Jeremiah McVicker. He's currently our maintenance manager, but Jeremiah started out as a transit bus operator 5 years ago. Next to Jeremiah is David Slack. David is been with us for 2 years as a transit bus operator. Next to him is Wallace Sting. Wallace has been here 1 year, so he is celebrating his first anniversary. And I've never known Wallace not to be smiling. Donovan Walker is celebrating his 2nd year with us, and Donovan, did start out as a bus detailer and then worked into a transit bus operator position. I think those are all of our anniversaries. I would like to share, we have 2 new employees that have recently started with us, and I apologize I didn't get our pictures put in here. Aaliyah has started at our front desk office and is with our accounting division. And Andrea just started this week, and she is going to be participating in document controls and record retention within our IT department. Couple of just really quick other updates since we have time. Mountain Line is gearing up for the return to school. In fact, introduced some of our deviations this week, and we'll have more coming next week. And Jackie and Karen have been very busy. Busy's been helping, attending all the back to school events around town at local schools, really answering questions about transit and helping with trip planning and selling passes. And then I have one announcement to make. Metro Plan is making a change in the role on the TAC. So I'd like to take a moment to thank Dave Wessel, who has been a great member on our TAC and served as chair, as indicated, and we appreciate all of his time. And we want to welcome Jeff because they are going to swap roles. Dave has been the primary with Jeff as his backup, and they are going to switch those roles in the September meeting. And of course, I want to congratulate Jeff because if the rules of procedure go through, well, I guess if they don't go through, Jeff is the new chair for this TAC committee starting in September. And that's my brief current events. We have to go backwards or answer any questions, but thank you, David, for everything that you have done. We appreciate you. Always welcome your input at these meetings.
It's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you. Does that conclude our progress reports?
That concludes our progress report, sir.
Okay, I think that as we look at the agenda, there'll be an executive session for the board. We don't need to discuss that, I don't believe, unless you have any comments on that, Heather.
I don't. No, sir.
Okay, and I believe that takes us to items from committee and staff. So part of that is discussion on our next meeting date and any agenda items. So thank you, Rhonda, for bringing that up. September 1st is our next agenda, and we can see the items that are already scheduled here. I'll put it out to the committee. Are there any questions about these items or things that you want to hear regarding these items, or any items that you would like to add to the September agenda? I would like to add an update to the Stride Forward Regional Transportation Plan. We should have some things to report on relative to the future scenarios. So
Okay, would you like that in September?
Yes.
Okay, we will get it added and Rhonda will be in touch.
Okay, thank you. Any other items for the September TAC meeting? I don't hear any. Do we have another slide relative to October, maybe?
No, just September at this time.
Okay. Well, I think I'm getting a cue that it's time to adjourn. So want to thank everybody for their time today. I know your time's valuable and helpful in terms of giving Mountain Lion staff and leadership guidance in their work with the board. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.